are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You were Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. You can follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter at Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, on Spotify, on Google Podcasts. Wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Today's episode is brought to you by On Location. On Location is the official hospitality partner of the NFL, and it's the only place to score a once-in-a-lifetime Super Bowl ticket and experience package. Visit onlocationexp.com/SB56 for more information, or you can search Super Bowl On Location. So we have Expert Tuesday today, and I'm very excited to have Aaron Schatz on the program from Football Outsiders. He is the father of DVOA. So for everyone who's like, why does this guy talking into the microphone insist on talking about DVOA? The person who helped create it is going to be on the show to talk about it, in part because right now the metrics don't love Green Bay. There are, in fact, three teams the Packers have beaten are ahead of them on the DVOA list, ahead of the Super Bowl, ahead of Monday Night Football, not the Super Bowl. The Bills and the Patriots cannot meet in the Super Bowl. So Aaron is going to come on and talk about why that is, how week one is potentially affecting all of that in the numbers. Not potentially, it is affecting all of that in the numbers. And we'll dig into the NFC playoff race and a lot more later on in the show. We got some updates from Matt LaFleur on Monday. He said there is a possibility that all three of, or any singular three of, David Bakhtiari, Zadarius Smith, and Jair Alexander could be back this week at practice, and that they hope to get all three guys back this season. That they haven't ruled any of them out is good news. They have been less optimistic with Josh Myers, who's been coming back from knee surgery in November. And so they're still trying to figure out what that means for their offensive line. Luckily, Lucas Patrick, his best position is center, and that's where he gets to play. John Runyon Jr. has picked up the slack at left guard. And if they're able to get David Bakhtiari out there, then you, I think, feel really good about where this offensive line is. They do not need those guys to beat the Bears this week. Now, that doesn't mean that you can let down. That doesn't mean that you don't need to bring the intensity. The Packers have, oddly, not done well coming off the bye in the Matt LaFleur era so far. Now, they did come out of the bye in both playoff instances and play well. So I don't, like, there is this, oh, well, the Packers in the bye week under Matt LaFleur. Well, 2019, that Chargers game was just bizarre for a lot of different reasons. They came out really flat, no energy, and the Chargers made some plays, some big plays that I got. That whole game was just weird. I think there were 3 or 4 possessions in the first half by the Packers. I mean, they didn't have the ball. It was a very weird game. And then the second game was Tampa. They started fine in that Tampa game, and then the wheels just fell off. Aaron Rodgers threw some picks, and the train went off the tracks. In the playoffs, they came out guns blazing against the Seahawks. They came out with a really good plan against the Rams. So I'm not worried about this post-bye malaise problem, such that there is one. I don't think there is one. I think, there's some noise in those numbers. And we're only talking about, in the regular season, 2 of these games. This is also the Bears. And the Packers have a chance to clinch a playoff spot, end the NFC North and do it at home against the Bears in December at Lambeau. If you can't get up for this game, if the fans can't get up for this game, if you can't get excited about beating the Bears to a pulp because it's not a good football team, and they don't seem to be getting better. And Matt Nagy, who knows what the future of Matt Nagy is? And no, look, we all know the future of Matt Nagy. The question is, how soon does he meet that future? It could be after this game. This could be one of those, the Packers win 35-10, and Matt Nagy is called into the principal's office on Monday. That could be what we're looking at. The Packers, I don't think they need to make a statement in this game. They just need to not let down. They've had some really good, they're playing some really good football right now. And, they're coming off a really big win. But at the same time, they're not necessarily the favorites right now. And there are going to be some, what about Arizona, Tampa Bay? They're the favorites. All that stuff. Plenty of reasons for this team to feel like they still have a lot to prove. And by the way, they do, because they haven't won the Super Bowl as a group yet. And essentially, it's Aaron Rodgers in terms of people left over, and Mason Crosby left over from the Super Bowl team. So everyone on this team still has something to prove in terms of getting that championship hardware. It starts this week. 5 games to get the number 1 seed. The number 1 seed is extremely important because you get that pass. And this is something we're going to talk about with Aaron Schatz. This is a season where anything can happen, where there is so much parity, where there isn't that much difference between the best or second best team in the conference and the 4th or 5th best team in the conference. Now, after that, I think it really gets crazy, but Washington already beat Tampa. So, I mean, this is a year where stuff has just gotten crazy because there isn't that hegemonic team. There isn't that unstoppable force in the league right now. And I think that's good for the league, but it also makes the number 1 seed where you just get a free pass into the second round. You just get to go to the divisional round. You get to host. You get to get your guys healthy. That's great. That is extremely valuable in a season like this. Now, if you're the Packers and you're the 2, are you going to fear going on the road in Arizona? Absolutely not. Are you going to fear going on the road to Tampa? Absolutely not. Especially warm weather. It's not going to bother you. It's not because it's not going to be hot. That's not going to be the issue. This 1 seed is important. Now, I think it is less important to the players than it is the fans and the media. We see this regularly. A team gets in, they punch their ticket, and then they let down. Now, the Packers haven't done that. But the rest of the NFC, the middle of it, it's making it easy. San Francisco, Minnesota, they're losing these games. You're going to let Washington and Philadelphia. I mean, there could be 3 NFC East teams in the playoffs. It's not going to scare Green Bay. It's just not. They already beat Washington handily without any of their guys, or at least without the guys that they could be getting back here. And they're not afraid of Philly. I mean, I don't know why anyone would be, although Gardner Minshew, the jean shorts prince, did look pretty good on Sunday. The Packers, their march toward the 1 seed, it really starts now. And we talked about it yesterday with the schedule talk. If they're going to get some of these guys back, there are some, there's some momentum now for the Packers as the favorite. Ryan Wood on the beat mentioned it, that if these guys come back, the Packers are the favorites. I've been saying this for 2 weeks, 3 weeks now, since the Seahawks game, 3 weeks, that when this team is healthy, they are the favorites. They are not the NFC favorites, the Super Bowl favorites. I continue to believe that. Now, they have to get healthy. We don't know if they're going to. We don't know that they will. This is not fait accompli that they are going to get healthy. But a healthy Packers team is the favorite. One last injury-related thing, not really injury-related, but health-related. Jordan Love is on the COVID list. He is vaccinated, so that means this has to be a positive test because you can't be a close contact. He will need a set of negative tests to get back with the team. He was going to probably take all the first team reps this week. Rodgers is still dealing with that pinky toe issue, and these are valuable reps for him. Missing out on that opportunity, does it impact this year? You hope not, because if it does, it means he's got to play again. And unless it's week 18 when you've got everything sewn up, you don't really want him playing in a game that you need to win. So just because Rodgers is better right now. So that part of it is a bummer. I think it is also a reminder that this is all just like tenuous. And Keenan Allen, Cameron Jordan, some big names tested positive on Monday or hit the COVID list. And so this is fingers crossed here. We're white knuckling it to the Super Bowl, in some ways more than last year, because this happened once and the Packers came up short. And so this is such a great opportunity for them that it is all the more important, with all of the context too around Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, all that stuff, that this is potentially it. And so we're just all like doing this to make sure we can get to the end of the season and not have any more of these issues. You listen to podcasts for the power of knowledge. You switch to Boost Mobile for the power of saving money. Because with Boost, you get the power of a free iPhone 5G, so you can listen to all the latest episodes. The power of 3 unlimited data lines for $30 a month per line, so your family can harness all that brain power too. And the power of America's largest 5G network, so you can do it all with the speed of 5G. With all that money you'll save and all that knowledge you'll gain, just how powerful will you become? Switch to Boost Mobile and find out. Get a free Samsung Galaxy A32 5G when you switch to one of America's largest 5G networks. More power to save. Boost Mobile. Today's episode is also brought to you by On Location. Super Bowl 56 is at SoFi. It's less than 100 days away, and On Location, the official hospitality partner of the NFL, is the only place to score a once-in-a-lifetime Super Bowl package. Select your exact seats and choose from elite experiences featuring an exclusive pregame celebration with NFL legends, 5-star LA hotels. No one does LA hotels, or does 5-star hotels like LA, and the food by the great Wolfgang Puck. Visit onlocationexp.com/SB56 for more information, or search Super Bowl On Location. That's onlocationexp.com/SB56, or search Super Bowl On Location. Packers could be going to the Super Bowl. I'm just saying, might be something to check out. Joining me now for Expert Tuesday this week, particularly aptly named, Aaron Schatz from Football Outsiders is here. This is a long time coming for people who are longtime fans of the show and longtime followers of me on Twitter. They know that I'm a big fan of DVOA. Aaron, that leads me to my first question. Why does DVOA hate the Packers?
Hate the Packers. There's a couple of reasons. The main one is week 1, right? So in DVOA, we consider every week of data during the season. We also have a stat called weighted DVOA that lowers the importance of older games, but even that includes like 15 weeks of games before you start dropping games out entirely. So week 1 is still in there a little bit. Okay, so week 1 was horrible. Like week 1 was like really, really bad. And as the Saints get worse, the opponent adjustments for the Saints end up getting less impressive. So that game just gets worse and worse. You also have the Jordan Love offensive game counted in there. But the biggest thing other than week 1, if you took week 1 out, they'd be like 6th or 7th. Okay. So, in the pack with the Rams and the Cardinals. Right. It makes sense. The other thing is they don't have any really dominant victories.
Yeah.
Like they've got a lot. Like the only game they have all year that's below average is week 1. Like even their losses by DVOA come out as above average. In fact, DVOA thinks they really outplayed the Vikings, despite losing that game a couple weeks ago. But they also don't have any really dominant victories. And by the way, the Arizona Cardinals are the same way. The Arizona Cardinals don't have any really super dominant victories. The way the Bills have 5 games with DVOA over 60%, and the Patriots have 3 of them, and Green Bay has none, and Arizona has none. And so, you know, a lot of our research shows it's those big dominating wins over bad opponents, or even better, like what the Patriots did with Cleveland, a big dominating win over a mediocre opponent,
right?
That really shows a championship team. And the Packers don't have any of those.
And they still have more opportunities, right? We're not saying they can't do that. That's just where they are now. And something that you and I were talking about on Twitter before we came on here was DVOA also does not account for injuries. And so I think there is this perception that these wins are more impressive because of who the Packers are playing without. Something like DVOA does not account for not having Jair Alexander, not having Zadarius Smith, not having Bakhtiari, and still playing, you know, as you said, above average in these games.
Yeah, above average in every game. Like, even if it's only a little bit above average, it's still above average. And even in the Jordan Love game, they come out as above average once you adjust for playing Kansas City. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, you know, if we're trying to predict going forward, you have to adjust for injuries, thinking about who's coming back. But from what I know, a lot of those guys aren't coming back.
Right.
So as impressive as it may be to win without them, they're not coming back for the playoff run. I mean, Bakhtiari should be, right?
We hope. We will see. We don't know on Zadarius Smith. We don't know on Jair Alexander, but someone like Elton Jenkins not coming back. So right. that's just the reality of that. So you do these simulations as well, using your model to push forward into the NFC playoffs. Ahead of the Monday night game in the NFC, who is the favorite to come out of the NFC by DVOA?
So right now, the favorite is Tampa Bay at 28.5%. Then Arizona at 22%, and Green Bay and Dallas are each at 18%.
And does that build in the fact that the Buccaneers are most likely to get the 1 seed, or is that something that you're able to even?
It's actually based on the Buccaneers being the best team in our ratings, because they dropped a little bit this week because they only beat Atlanta by 13, and Atlanta is the worst team in our ratings.
Yeah.
Despite being 5-7, they're our worst team. So Tampa Bay dropped a little bit. So actually, we now have Arizona favored to get the 1 seed, followed by Green Bay, and then Tampa. But because Tampa is the better team in our ratings overall, we have them favored to come out of the NFC over Arizona and Green Bay.
So let's back up a little bit, because we've been using this acronym a lot, and there are people out there who are probably going, "What are you talking about?" So let's just, 30,000. This is almost like atmospheric level view here with DVOA.
Yeah.
Can you go back to the genesis of DVOA and what you're attempting to show in its creation?
I wish I had called it something else. DVOA stands for defense adjusted value over average, although
right.
It's actually just opponent adjusted value over average. And
it's not as catchy as WAR.
It's not as catchy as WAR, unfortunately. What it does is it gives every play a success value that's based on the down and distance and how many yards you get. Turnovers and losses are negative value. And then it compares that to a league average baseline, which is adjusted for situation and opponent. And the result is how efficient you are in general when it comes to moving the ball and moving the sticks.
And so 2019 is a good example. Green Bay, they win 13 games, but by DVOA, they were not a 13-win team. You have, I believe you guys call it approximate wins. Is that right? And then you also have the Pythagorean.
There's estimated wins, which is based
wins.
on DVOA splits. And then there's Pythagorean wins, which is based simply on points scored and allowed. But by Pythagorean wins, they were one of the most overperforming teams of all time that year.
Yeah.
Not that they were a bad team, just that their underlying performance was much closer to a 10-6 team than to a 13-3 team.
And so we have had discussions, plenty of discussions on this show about close game luck and those kinds of things. That was part of the reason. And you can see that in something like the Pythagorean expectation, right? That if you're not blowing, this goes back to our very first point. If you're not blowing teams out, it probably is an indication of your quality as a team. And the Packers just haven't done that yet.
Right. But I mean, it's not like we hate the Packers every year. For example, last year,
Right.
the Packers were third overall in our
Right.
number. And Aaron Rodgers was the best quarterback, and I voted for him for MVP. So it's nothing against the Packers. It's just definitely in 2019, they really overperformed their underlying stats. And this year, they really are being dragged down by week one.
I've been using the EPA numbers, and I've just been eliminating week one. I'm just like, no, we're just throwing it out. And I don't know if that's fair or not, but
right. The problem is every team has a game that they
right.
probably wish they could throw out. I mean, and Arizona has a better argument. Arizona has a better argument for throw out the Colt McCoy game against Carolina. You know, if you're going to throw out one of their games, I mean, at least the Packers game against New Orleans was all their normal players.
Right. I think that this really came into focus for me in 2008 because the Packers in Aaron Rodgers' first year, they finished 13th in DVOA. They were 6-10, but they lost all of these close games. They lost all these games on the last possession, and that actually started a streak where I believe they were the number one team by DVOA in the division every year for like 12 years, even when they didn't win it.
The big one is 2010. In 2010, when they were 10-6, they were third in the league in DVOA, even though they were only 10-6. And of course, they went on and won the Super Bowl.
Right. And so you mentioned weighted DVOA, which accounts for the more recent games. Is there? I mean, I assume you have some sort of historical data that says those games are actually more valuable because, like, go ahead.
It's not much different. The correlation between weighted DVOA and future performance is not that much better than the correlation between total season DVOA and future performance. It's like an little bit better. But I know that people think of teams in terms of recentness. We don't want to be like if a team made a quarterback change or there have been a lot of injuries. People think of teams in terms of the last couple months. So since it is a little bit better correlation, I use weighted DVOA to do like projections for the future rather than total season.
It's an interesting idea too, because if you look in college sports, like college basketball, there's some evidence that preseason rankings are actually useful in determining outcomes in the NCAA tournament because it helps us, discern talent and those kinds of things. It's why you use Dave, right? Why you use your projections. This was something
up until 13, all the way up until a team has played 13 games. At that point, the projections are gone from the Ravens.
I was talking to Ed Fang about this over at the Power Rank because he was saying, the more he did the modeling and was working on the numbers, the more he realized that his projections were actually more useful for longer than he realized.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. And I mean, there's some research that suggests you should be using projections throughout the entire year, which probably would be good for Green Bay because we had them projected pretty good before the season.
It would be. The numbers don't hate Green Bay, or at least the people who create the numbers. There's no bias there. I was obviously joking about all of that. But there is something that I want to ask you about, and that is this idea of momentum has become a flashpoint among NFL people.
Yeah.
And there is the analytics community that says if it existed the way that we talk about it, why is it not borne out in the data? Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, we talk about in-game momentum, right? This is not to say I don't believe in week to week. Some teams do get better as the season goes along.
Right.
Some teams do get worse as the season goes along, right? Carolina was better at the beginning of the season. New England is better now than they were at the beginning of the season. In-game momentum, there's no evidence that it exists. They talk about it all the time on the broadcasts. Now that this team has the momentum, oh, the momentum is going to shift. The biggest problem with momentum as it's defined in the way that people talk about it is that it shifts so easily. How can it mean anything?
Right.
Right. Like the problem is nobody can define what momentum means. And when you try to define what momentum means, you discover it has no predictive value at all. So like how well a team has played in the last drive has no effect on how well they'll play on the next drive.
Mm.
I also find the idea kind of a little bit absurd from a sports psychology perspective that how well the offense plays will have so much effect on the defense. Like, in part because these are professionals and they go out there every week and they're thinking to themselves, I'm going to kick some ass.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what? Like, if the offense turns the ball over, I don't think the defense goes out there demoralized, like, oh no, here we go, defending a short field. They're professionals. They go out there and think, all right, here we go. We're going to kick some ass. We're going to hold them to a field goal. You know, we're awesome and we're going to do our jobs. Like, I feel like, I don't know whether momentum is measurable in like high school sports, but I feel like once you get to the NFL, it's pretty clear that the way it's mentioned on broadcasts, it's always something that's only definable in the past tense.
Right.
Like we can go back and look at a game and be like, oh, here's where momentum shifted. But like when you're in the middle of it, the phrase, oh, now the momentum is with the home team has no effect on how well the home team or visiting team plays the rest of the way.
It's wild too, because anyone who has ever played, like, not even competitive sports, like if you've played in the backyard, you feel it. And if you're at the game, it seems like you can feel it. But again, this is one of those things where just like, if it exists in the way that we talk about it, why I have to tell you, I'm very conflicted about it, because I swear that it exists. And every time I look at it, I go, no, if it does, where is it? And that I struggle with it. I really do.
I agree with you that you feel it. Like when you play sports, you feel it. When you watch, you feel it. It feels like, oh, you know, that team is coming back. But like, I mean, I'll give you a really good, like a good example. There was a game between the Patriots and the 49ers 8 or 9 years ago where the 49ers started out in New England with like a 28-point lead or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Patriots came all the way back to tie it. And at that point, you would be like, the Patriots have the momentum. They have come all the way back to tie this game. They're going to win this game. And then San Francisco scored on a long pass to Michael Crabtree on the next drive, and that was it. That was the end of the game. Even this week, Chargers, Bengals. Chargers had a 24-0 lead. Bengals came back and scored 22 points. There's no question. Bengals had the momentum.
Right.
And then the Chargers suddenly pulled away. Joe Mixon fumbled. Like, the momentum did not stop Joe Mixon from fumbling and the Chargers from picking it up and running it in. Like, the Bengals had all the momentum after coming back, and yet the Chargers then went out and scored 19 more points and won the game, 41-22 or something.
And even in arenas, I mean, we act like fan emotion can dictate outcomes. And there are times when you watch a game and you go, man, that the crowd really, you know, we feel it, especially in basketball, right? When a team is going on a run and the crowd seems to just deflate. But then all of a sudden, like LeBron or Kevin Durant or Steph Curry, right?
We never note when, man, the crowd is really freaking into it and it just isn't mattering.
Right.
The team is still struggling to fight the fact that this crowd is completely behind them.
Right.
Like, we never notice the opposite. We only notice it when the narrative fits the momentum narrative.
Right. Like the Grind City Memphis crowd only affects them on the defensive end. It never helped their offense make shots because they're not a good shot making team.
Right.
So let's close with this.
Right. Like I know anything about basketball.
Well, but it's right. As we now look at the end of this season, in terms of the NFC playoff picture, I know what the numbers say, what you guys have projected here, is you are also someone who watches the game as well. So do you feel differently than the numbers do about the NFC playoff race right now? I mean,
I feel it's really hard to still talk myself into the Arizona defense, given what we expected from them before the season, but they've played really, really well. I think Vance Joseph is a coordinator of the year candidate.
Yeah.
And so with that in mind, I mean, I feel like Tampa Bay and Arizona are the best and most well-rounded of the teams in the NFC. I mean, I'm personally rooting for Dallas because before the season, I decided I was going to go out on a limb and not be boring and predict Tampa Bay, and I predicted Dallas would make the Super Bowl, and if they do, I will look good.
Right.
So that is what I'm rooting for. But I think in reality, I feel like, I mean, Dallas is a pretty well-rounded team too. I feel like, I mean, and Green Bay is their defense has just not played as well as the Arizona and Dallas defenses.
Right.
And their offense has not played as well as the Tampa Bay offense. But they're really in it too. This is a very even year. I mean, this is a very, our numbers have the Patriots higher than they really should be, I think. And I think if you bring them back to the pack a little bit, the NFC is pretty even. The AFC is kind of even too. We think the Chiefs are better than their numbers. We think the Patriots are probably not quite as good as their numbers. The Bills may not be quite as good as their numbers either. It really looks very even in both conferences.
It does seem like there's 4 NFC teams and then just everyone else. And
well,
so
the Rams, the Rams.
I guess 5.
You can't sleep on the Rams, especially given that this year is the 3rd straight year where it feels like there's no home field advantage at all in the NFL.
Yeah, good point.
So I don't see the Rams' chances of winning it all to be any different than whichever team is the 4 seed and has to play the Rams. The advantage goes to the 1 seed, which doesn't have to play anybody, and the 2 and 3 seeds who get to play, I don't know, Washington or Philly or San Francisco or Minnesota or something. That 4-5 game, which looks most likely to be Dallas versus the Rams, is going to be a hardcore fight.
I can't wait. I hope that is the matchup, just because I think it would be great football. So I still think it's going to be a really good NFC playoff race. I just think there's definitely a drop off after those top 5 teams.
I mean, the thing is that one thing we know about going forward is our projections are counting offense and defense the same. But what I really should be doing, and will at some point in the future, once I've done more research, is counting offense a little better than defense, because offense is more predictive than defense and special teams.
Yeah.
And that gives an advantage to the teams that have been better on offense, which right now, the team that is best on offense in the NFL for the year is Tampa Bay. Right? Like Green Bay is very, very good, and Dallas is very, very good, and Arizona is very, very good when you take out Colt McCoy versus Carolina. But Tampa Bay has been the best offense in the league, so that you figure that gives them a little bit of a leg up.
Yeah. Well, Packer fans certainly hope that's not the case, but that's how it played out last year. So I don't think it would be that surprising if it played out the same way.
Yeah, but given the way that it played out last year was that a wild card team won 3 on the road to make it. There's nothing stopping a 4 seed or a 3 seed. You know, it really does feel very, very. It's not like the team that gets the 1 seed is going to be totally dominant over the other teams in the NFC. Like, it's going to be pretty close.
It is, and your numbers say that, considering they have the team that's not the most likely to get the 1 seed as the favorite in the NFC. So a lot of great stuff, Aaron. This was awesome, man. Thank you for coming on, and hopefully we'll do it again.
Thanks for having me. And just a reminder to all your readers to check out footballoutsiders.com.
Yes.
Check out FO Plus, our subscription product, which has all kinds of advanced metrics and fantasy football projections and research tools and picks against the spread. And come represent the Packers in the discussions on our site. We love Packer fans. More Packer fans.
Absolutely do that. I have the premium. I use it all the time in preparation for this show and on the Leap newsletter. So come join me. Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks a lot.
All right. I want to thank Aaron for coming on the show. Great to talk to him. We dove into some deep analytics territory. But I don't think I've asked anyone on the podcast about the momentum idea. And so I'm like I said, I'm still trying to come to terms with it myself. But the data is what the data is. In life, we're all bound for different things. With beachbound.com vacations, you can be bound for adventure, bound for passion, bound for discovery, or bound for togetherness, bound for immersion, bound for rejuvenation, or maybe you're bound for encountering the unexpected. Personally, when I'm at a beach resort, I'm bound to end up poolside, maybe creating my own taco flight, Corona, margarita, can't decide. Maybe I'll have both. As long as I've got a good view and a good drink in my hand, I'll be happy. With beachbound.com, you can find the perfect beach vacation for you no matter what you're looking for. What are you bound for? Visit beachbound.com today. All right, we are going to be back. We have a different schedule this week. Knows How You Doing tomorrow. We're going to do crossover Wednesday, old school, throwback, And then we have a special guest on Thursday. I'm not going to give that away yet. I want to make sure that we get all the ducks in a row for that. But I'm very excited to bring that to you and promote something that I think is really important. So that is coming up later in the week. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers. Subscribe on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for being our first listen. Make your second listen Locked On Bets. Go make some money. You got the Packers news. Go listen to your boy Q and Lee Sterling do their thing. They are hot this year. So go check them out as well. And anytime you want to hit us up on the Locked On Packers fan hotline, you can do that. 920-341-3775 to stay Locked On Packers.